Welcome, welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. We are really excited, and this is a special day, y'all. This is a special
It's
day.
actually a special week, Jess. Let's be honest. Like this
Well,
is a
it
good.
is a special week.
It's
Thank
a
you,
special
Corlin.
week.
Well, today we're kind of having happy hour, and we could have happy hour with wine and water, by the way. So
I have
I
happy hour water.
Yes, that's okay. Because she didn't know that I was going to put her on blast. But today is Coralyn's birthday. So welcome to Coralyn's happy birthday episode of Lead Like a Girl. Coralyn, we love you. We appreciate you so much. And happy birthday. Cheers to that.
Thank you. Oh, cheers to that.
Yes. So
I do have to say for the record,
episode.
though, while we're talking birthdays, is that my sweet friend Jessica will always be exactly 3 days younger than me. Sometimes that's held over my head, sometimes not. But her birthday is in betweener, so it's not coming until Thursday of this week. But 3 days from now, after you listen, we got to send out another happy birthday shot to Jessica also.
Yes, and we got to have another happy hour. So, and I actually, it's funny. I do have a happy hour on Thursday, but it wasn't for my birthday. It just happened to be. So I'll celebrate that. But listen, if you are tuning in today, we thank you so much for listening. We invite you to Lead Like a Girl Lab on YouTube. And we just ask that you comment and you subscribe and you share and you do all the stuff that whatever you do on YouTube, and you follow us on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the other social media platforms. And we just thank you so much for your support. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear what topics you want to hear. And we thank you for all of the feedback and the comments thus far. So let's jump right into today's episode. We are talking about one of our favorite topics, which is leadership, and specifically how you measure great leadership outside of the metrics or your traditional KPIs. And I think that especially not only in a sales org, right, but especially in a sales org, sometimes we are held to those numbers and hitting our goals that we might get ourselves down sometimes when we're not hitting those numbers because we define our leadership so much into the numbers, right? Am I explaining that right, Cor?
Yep.
So I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Because sometimes the numbers don't come for whatever reason, but that doesn't mean the leadership is lacking inherently.
Absolutely. And, I learned that, I think, later after our previous lives. And the reason I think that that was a lesson learned later for me is because that leadership connection to your results in our old world at DB was a little more aligned with controlling the results, right? Whereas now, the roles that I've had after DB, listen, you could just have a territory that is a little harder than another territory that has the same metrics, and you're all held accountable to the same number. So that was a little hard for me to kind of figure that out, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I suck. I'm not hitting goal. I must be a horrible leader. And I really had to learn that I'm not just that number. Like, what are some other indicators? So I want to start off with a fun first minute fast for you, Core. So tell me about So tell me, when you think about those proud mom moments, tell me about a proud leader moment, maybe recent or in the past. Just something that sticks out as a real proud moment that you had as a leader.
I think that is a hard question, Jess. I think that I guess what really comes to mind first is, and it's not really a business story, but I have had the amazing opportunity to be a big sister. So like the big brother, big sister program.
Okay.
And I have had an opportunity to be a big sister to this wonderful, wonderful human. I met her when she was in 7th grade, and this girl is graduating this fall with her master's in
Wow.
psychology. She
Oh,
is, yeah, yeah.
okay.
She is, and she's had a tough go at it. And what's really been fun for me over the years since I've known her is that we're connected, and just kind of just the way that life goes, kind of like a little bit ebb and flow in terms of our connection, but we've never ever lost touch with each other. And I think that, and one of the great things is she's probably listening to us right now because she listens to every one of our podcasts. So anytime we ever have a blip,
Oh,
she's like, "Did you know that you guys cut out at minute 26?" She's on it. So she's
I have one of
listening
those
to this.
faithful listeners. Shout out to our faithful listeners. What's her name, Coralyn?
Uh, my fantastic friend Jordan.
Oh,
She's
okay.
amazing. But I think the proud moment, I think that it kind of just goes through is that it was a little bit of a learning for us both, because as we got to know each other, it was interesting. We had really similar upbringing. We realized that we both had really like struggles with our relationships with our fathers. We had to do a lot of stuff on our own and figure out how to make things work. And I think that she's told me on a couple different occasions that it's just been nice to have a sounding board and having somebody there to help. Just not even, I don't even tell her what to do. I think she's like very, very independent and she makes her own decisions, but she is, I don't know, she's somebody who is, she makes a decision and she's going to make it happen. And for me to be a little bit of a part of her story has been fantastic. And so I
Yeah.
think that, not that I can take even the majority of the credit, like hardly any credit, but just a tiny
Yeah.
credit, just to be able to call her a friend and just watch her grow has been really, really fantastic. I'm really, really proud of the young woman that she has become. She's really fantastic.
I love that. And you know what I loved about that story is, see, where my mind went is as a leader in my role in my corporate job. And I love the fact that your mind went in as a mentor, right? As a
Mm,
leader, someone that you're mentoring, because I assume it sounds like this is someone, or you said the boys and girls or big sister. So this is
hmm.
outside of your corporate job as a leader, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I love that. When I think about my recent proud moment, so when I got in the role that I'm in now, which in January will be about 2 years ago, the first thing that I do as a new leader in a role, taking over a existing team, is really assess the talent that I have, and I'm really
Mm,
looking for where are the people that really stand out that I can really, really put time into to get them to that next level, and maybe identify some people that are just in the wrong role. And I think that if you have, especially if you had a big enough team, that's always the case. And so early on, I identified two people. One young lady I identified as, this is someone who's in the wrong role. She just absolutely should not be in this role. And we went through a series of coaching and training and all that good stuff before I confirmed that my theory was correct. And she actually came to the
hmm.
conclusion before I even said it. And then the other one was, this is someone that I really don't think that the org that she is in really understands and appreciates her for the gifts and the talents that she has. So at the end of the
Mm,
day, these are two people that need to be out of here. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and we have to be open to that. So that goal, I said, one of the things that I want to accomplish before leaving this role, and I really had like a 2 year plan of staying in this role for 2 years until I moved on to something else. And that was the number one goal that I have. And I am so proud of them because listen, they had to do the work, just like you said about this young lady. I can
hmm.
tell you what I think you need to do. I can support you and coach you and all of that. But at the end of the day, I can't want it more than you want it for yourself. You got to do the work, right?
Sometimes we do though, don't we? We sometimes you
Oh my
just
gosh. That's like
like
my
come
biggest.
on, people.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, that's one of the biggest things that I have to check myself all the time. I can't want this more for you than you do. But that's probably I'd say, man, in the last 5 years, those two young ladies are like my proud moments because they were coachable and they put in the work, and they're both in way better places than they were. And I'm super proud as a leader to have led them and supported them in doing that. So,
well, and I think even just in that whole point too, Jess, that we said is that it takes a good leader to recognize that, hey, that this is, I'm not going to, even though you can see all this fantastic talent with these two people, there's some leaders out there that would want to continue to hoard that for themselves and say, I don't want to give up this, or letting them go means more work because it takes time to hire, it takes time to find a new
oh my
person,
God.
all the different things. So the easier path would let them stay and be mediocre or just coast along in their spot. But somebody who wants to be growing and doing better, then you have to take that step and be courageous and say, we got to press on and move forward. And that takes the mark of a really good leader. So good job for
Absolutely. Yeah. I call that lazy leadership, the lazy leadership syndrome. So when we think about, let's talk about some key indicators of great leadership, right? Again, outside of metrics, outside of numbers, what are some key indicators of great leadership?
I would say, right off the bat, when we started talking about this, really what came to mind is at my current company, we have an accounting team, and they are 100% female, right? Our CFO is female. Our entire accounting team is female. When I say that, what do you think about the dynamic, generally speaking, of 100% female teammates in most scenarios, would you say? Is the stereotype?
They could be, I don't know. I mean, it could be they're catty, or it could be they're organized. It could be,
I would say what I in when I've worked in very, very strong female, like all females, it sometimes defaults to it's a little catty, things get a little territorial. This group is the most highly functioning group of girls that I have ever met. And I think that it's a team effort, but I have to give, solid kudos to our CFO, who has hired all of them and set a tone, look for the right people to bring on board. When we have a new hire, she's really specific on who they hire, because it's not only hiring for the skill set, but how they interact with the team. And I was just talking to somebody today that it is just absolutely remarkable how well this group of females get along. They're laughing, they go out, they celebrate each other. It's really fun to be amongst that group of people that don't have that catty, really jealous, whatever you to say. And I think that the whole culture part of it, the point is,
I was just about to say, let's name it. Let's name it.
That's what having a good culture, like being able to,
Yep. I love that. I was going to say, now I'm trying to figure out what we're going to name this.
Wrap it up, Coralyn.
No, but I think that is the key word there is culture, right? I think that is one of the areas that I would say is a key indicator of successful leadership, is that culture. One of the things that I thought of is emotional intelligence. Okay. And so when I think back about once upon a time, I often think about, I wonder if there are, whether it be listeners or, someone on Facebook or anybody who may see me now. I was once upon a time an awful leader. I'm serious. Like, I could talk about my transformation. And when I think about the beginning, and I see this all the time, I was at the right place at the right time. That's how I fell into leadership. I didn't earn it. I didn't, deserve it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was at the right place at the right time. And I was a micromanager. I was awful. I was a HR nightmare, and that could have just been the environment that I was in. And I've really learned a lot during that time. And so I want to be clear that I think there's growth and development into this where you can identify. When I think about emotional intelligence, let's kind of define that, because a lot of times people, even though they know technically what it means, I think that skill stops at figuring out how to manage your emotions. And it's a period.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the end of this thing. And it's really understanding that that's actually the smaller part of emotional intelligence. Like, the other part of that is managing the emotions of others. So where do you think that, if we're just talking about emotional intelligence, um, where do you think that aligns with great leadership? How impactful is that?
Well, I think of emotional intelligence. There's this old study, and have you ever heard of it? The marshmallow test with kids.
Yes.
One of
Yes.
the key indicators of if you will have strong emotional intelligence as an adult is this marshmallow test. So just to summarize it really quick for the listeners who haven't heard of this, but they sit down a child, like a kid, and they give them one marshmallow, and they tell them, if you don't eat this, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you 5 marshmallows. So I'm going to leave the room. I'll be back in 10 minutes or whatever it was. And they have a hidden camera on these kids.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
and the kids, some of them eat the thing right away. They have like zero delayed gratification. They just can't wait. And
Yeah.
other kids are smelling it and like licking it. One kid like throws it across the room because he wants to have the 5, but he doesn't trust himself. So it's all these different things that they do. And when you talk about how that plays out as an adult and how it plays into leadership, is this idea of delayed gratification is that, can you be patient enough? And I think that sometimes when things happen and leaders become reactive, like something happens, we have to act now. And sometimes that's good. Like, you have to be able to be reactive sometimes, but sometimes we just need to sit and wait for a second, be patient, see how things are going to be playing out. Or if one of your teammates is a little bit more high strung or more reactive, not jumping at every single thing. Or
Right.
I'm sure that like in your sales departments, you've got like, our sales are down, like, what are we going to do to change? And they start changing like every single thing to try
Right.
and see what happens. Where the better idea is, let's tweak something small and be patient and let's see how it works out. So I think that whole emotional intelligence comes into play, and the ability to make educated, sound decisions, but not jump at every single thing, and know when is it good. And sometimes you don't know it. Sometimes hindsight's 2020, right? You
Right.
don't find out till after, like, that was good or that was bad. But I think over time, you correct that.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's a fun fact. Studies show that leaders with high emotional intelligence can boost team performance up to 20%. So I
Mm.
know that it's amazing how sometimes we're looking for how, especially in a sales org, how can we increase performance? And you're looking at your people, like you said, like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But maybe we just start by looking in the mirror and saying, hey, when is the last time I really tested where my emotional intelligence is as a leader? Because
Mm-hmm.
doing that, which is in my control as a leader, has an impact on my team's performance. So those are the things that I never thought of back then, because we didn't kind of talk about
The
those
other
things.
thing oh, go ahead. Sorry. The other thing I was thinking about, just as you're saying that, is that I think that the ability to understand that you, as a leader, you don't have to know everything also, is, that having the emotional intelligence to be able to say, okay, I don't know this. Let's either research it, or you're hiring people that know how to do some things that you don't, like filling the
Oh
gaps where you
boy.
don't.
Yeah, that part.
But being able to say, being able to admit that you can't do everything is, a sign of high intelligence, but then also be able to hire that right person, and being humble enough to be able to make those calls and just work together as a team to fill the gaps in your team, to be able to build up a stronger team than you are by yourself, is
Absolutely. Yeah.
really significant, I think.
Listen, the most success that I've ever had with, so let's say we're a team of directors and we're meeting with our AVP on X, Y, and Z. I'm getting my whole team together. And it's like, hey, I'm meeting with my leader on this, this, this. What do you guys got? Like they know the answers to and I make
Mm-hmm.
it very clear. This is why I hired you guys, because you guys are way smarter than me. I got a bigger mouth than you, but you guys are way smarter than me. So that's exactly why you're here and I'm here. So yeah, I think that's a great point. Another area that I think is really good indicator, and I really hope that this resonates with someone who you might be a leader and your numbers, maybe you're in a slump and your numbers are not where they should be or could be. And I don't want you to necessarily question your leadership skills, because sometimes numbers are just numbers. They're just that. And that's not the only thing that we're here to do. We're not just here. Like being a leader is an honor, it is a gift, and it is more than just the numbers and the metrics. And that's really what I think is just something that I really want to get across tonight. Team engagement. So when I think about leaders that I've experienced, that 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 commitment and the enthusiasm that people bring to their work, that to me is another key indicator of your leadership. What are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts around that? Do you agree that that is a good indicator when you look at the enthusiasm someone brings to the work that they do?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that the leader sets the tone, right? It's hard to not have it's hard to bring that culture if the leader isn't bought in. And trust me, I've worked for a lot of people over my tenure where you have leaders that are all in and everyone is just, yeah, we got to match his energy or his whatever. Or you have other people, other leaders where you're like, are we even on the same page here? And you can tell that, like, are we even reading the same book? Like, this is goofy,
Right.
And so I think that the leader definitely has to set the tone. But even in some of the, like, the little things, like even just investing in your people and not just, taking the time to
Mhm.
know that, business is business, but also developing a little bit of a personal relationship and knowing you don't need to know
Yeah.
all the people's secrets and but knowing when their birthday is and knowing what their kids' names are and what, and that kind of thing. I feel like that's an important part of the engagement process is, there's this theory, and I don't know, do you have an opinion about this at all? That I had read this thing is that they made a clear distinction that they hate calling your work a family. They
Hmm.
that it, this that good culture that they had they were talking about how your work is not your family. Stop calling your work your family. And I don't know if I necessarily subscribe to that. I think that they're obviously not related, but I feel like when you spend 40 hours a week, day in and day out with the same people, that you develop a relationship, or you can if you have the right team and the right leaders, that it kind of goes into a different bucket of people. What do you think? Do you call when you're in a good culture and you're in a good team, would you call your work your family? Like we always said, like the DB family. What do you think about that?
Well, here, and you bring up a great point. Um, I feel like I work just as hard today as I did at DB, but it is a different feeling. And I think that's the part that's missing. And, some might say, well, you work for a huge company that's, you know, a massive corporation, but I don't think it's the size of the company, because at the end of the day, this little bubble that we work in as far as our org is
Mm-hmm.
probably smaller than the company that we used to work for. I think the difference is that we did consider ourselves family. And I don't know, listen, I take responsibility for it myself. And I think back um, about, almost 2 years ago when I started in the role that I'm in now. And so there's a lot of missed opportunities on my part, but I do not feel like I'm part of a family. And I think that that is a missed opportunity for everybody because when
Mm-hmm.
you feel that you're part of a family, I think you show up every day with a different sense of a different value, right? And that was going to
Mm-hmm.
bring that kind of is a good segue to we talk a little bit about culture and creating this I'm looking at my notes here, inclusive, supportive environment where people feel valued. That's what I wrote down when I think about culture. And I always tell people, especially as a leader, you have to understand, like you have to know what you want that culture to be. You have to define it. You have to know exactly what you want it to be. And then you have to create that environment and live it every day of whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that you want to do. And there's always going to be someone who is I always say, you might have a poisoner in the group. And if depending on what I don't know much about poisonous snakes, but I know that they're out there. And there's you got to cut it at the head, right? So I've been in situations where you have someone who's poisonous, and you got to get to the point where you say, you know what, you got to go. You got to go because I'm trying to create a culture
Mm-hmm.
that's inclusive. And I believe, and this is my long winded answer to your short question, but I do think that creating a culture that you call your family, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that that
Mm-hmm.
creates a positive culture. And that's something that I know I want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. One of my mentors said it really well. He had said, you know, sometimes people say you shouldn't be friends with you or with your coworkers. Like, don't strive to be friends with the people that you work with. But he said, you know what? Friends don't let friends down. And if you have that kind of connection with people that you work with and somebody is falling behind, well, you're not going to just let them get trampled. You're going to come by their side and work together as a team to get things done.
Yeah.
And so that's always resonated with me. Maybe I don't have a whole, 50 BFFs all the time, but I do definitely have good friends that I work with that I would definitely bend over backwards for if they needed something, for sure.
Yeah.
And that kind of attitude towards your coworkers helps the whole company thrive and strive together, I feel
100%.
like.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I have here, I know we're running up of time here, but adaptability and resilience of your team. And I have
Mm-hmm.
here the ability, you'll love this, to pivot in response to
My
challenges,
favorite word.
in response to challenges and changing circumstances. So, um, uh, and a fun fact about that is resilient teams recover faster from setbacks. And so adaptability and resilience. I mean, I really think that as a leader, when you can create that, right? And that's sometimes change comes from the top. And as a leader, how you react as a leader and how you pivot and respond. Listen, in the business world, things are changing. It is not like
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago where everything was kind of set and that's the way it was going to be. So change
Mm-hmm.
is constant now. It is so fast, and you have to be able to lead by example, that you can pivot, that you can really respond in a positive way during change. And then
Mm-hmm.
this is the big one. I don't know why I saved this for last, development of
Well, before you go to
others.
that last one, I think that to your point, though, I think a good quote that I had from the old company is that everything that you say, you don't say, everything you do or don't do communicates your thoughts, your vision, and where you're headed. And
Say it
so
again.
I think
Say
that,
it again.
it's
I'm gonna
kind of
need you
that
to say it
old.
again for the people in the back, Coralyn. Say it again.
I mean, I said whatever, everything that you say or don't say, do or don't do communicates your vision and where you're headed, and I think that somebody is always watching. And when you have the title as the leader, the manager, the supervisor, it is not only it's it's your responsibility to set
Yeah.
the tone. And it's not what you're saying, but all the things that you don't say or don't do also are communicating those things as well.
Yeah.
And so recognizing that it's
Yeah.
a
That's good.
responsibility, that there's always somebody paying attention to how you're doing things. And just like kids, people behave the way that you behave.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. And that's a reminder. Even listen, I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. I'm growing. And even in a recent survey of feedback that I got, I felt a little bit of that. So, it's there, and it's an opportunity to again look in the mirror, check yourself, and realize exactly what you said holds true. So this is my favorite one, and I think it's my favorite one because I really believe in it, development of others. And we talked about this when I mentioned the two young ladies and your example as a mentor, investing in the growth and success of a team by mentorship and training. Um, I always have a
Mm-hmm.
goal. If I have a team and there's going to be people that don't aspire to be leaders or to move on, they're content in their role, and that is totally fine. But if you got 10 people on your team and all 10 people have been sitting there for 10 years, I'm going to need you to question yourself on that one, okay? Because
Yeah.
supporting, and this is the biggest miss that I hear, at least in my in my big corporate world. I have a lot of people that reach out to me and say, "Can you help me? I am not getting the support in my growth and development of my career from my leader." Number one thing I hear all the time. So to that, I say, leaders, you have to make sure that you are not just chasing metrics and a number, that you have a responsibility to support people, not do the work for them, because, right, they got to do the work, but to support people
Mm-hmm.
in their growth and development. And then for the people, you also have to hold your leader accountable. If they're not bringing up those conversations, you bring it up to them. You challenge them to be the leader that supports your growth and your development of your career. Any thoughts there, Cor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Is that we have to, again, going back. I'm just full of quotes from the old company tonight. I
And
don't know.
I love
You
it.
have
You're
to be
taking
green and
me back.
growing.
You're
You,
warming my heart today.
we have to be green and growing. And I think, I think
I'm
for
going to
the
send
leaders
your
that
old
have
boss a
big
note
teams,
on your birthday, Cor, that you were
I
paying
know, right?
attention in
Just say,
class. I love it.
as long as we're name dropping Dane and Darren, I'm
As
my
long
brain
as
is
you're
full
there,
of
drop
all
it.
the right.
Coralyn was
No,
drinking
I
the
was just gonna.
Kool-Aid.
Right, for sure, for sure. No, I'll just say this is that I think that if you haven't been developing your teams, it might be really daunting to how am I going to develop all these people, or what do I need to do as a leader to be able to do that? But I would say start with one, start with two, figure out a way that you can do for the one that you hope that you can do for the many. I think that with any challenge, right? The best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. There's another quote.
There we go.
Just going to keep going. But I think that the development is key, because and when you are stagnant, and I think that too, I feel like when I feel like I'm in a little bit of a slump, the best way to kickstart my thought, my creativity, my ideas is listen to a book, listen to a podcast, listen to something. There's always something there if you've got some good recommendations, like that you can start developing yourself. And I wouldn't say don't wait for your leader to do it too. That how can you pour into yourself and be an advocate for yourself too?
Absolutely. I love that. Well, I know that it is time to wrap up. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I love, love, love the topic of leadership. Like I said, I am humble and honored for the gift of leadership, and I hope to continue to grow and develop myself as a leader as well. But Core, I am really thankful that you chose to spend your birthday with recording an episode for you guys. That's how
I
committed
mean,
this.
how could I miss it? It's our
I
birthday week. We have to be together.
Listen, I could do this almost every night. So I enjoy these talks, and I would greatly appreciate, again, if you guys are listening and you want to actually see us, and we're not getting in front of this camera just because. So YouTube, Lead Like a Girl Lab, subscribe, share, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. What did I miss? I don't know.
Everybody's
All
doing it. All
social
the cool
media.
kids are. So you better just might as well get on the bandwagon.
Exactly. So, and listen, we want feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you want to talk about. So let us know if you like my Lead Like a Girl sweatshirt here. You can go to leadlikeagirllab.com and get all of our fall colors. You can get those great gifts if you have maybe a neighborhood girls soccer team, all that good stuff. This is really cool Lead Like a Girl swag. So share. We appreciate your support. Just a quick reminder that 10% of everything we make from our Lead Like a Girl will be donated to a good cause. So until next time, thank you for tuning in.